Alice didn't wind up in Wonderland. It was all a misunderstanding. She didn't have anything to live for. For you see, everything you saw was a big, fat lie. Just so that they can put food on the table. After all, it was good business. But what you're about to hear is one of the most shocking and terrifying truths behind Disney, or other fairy tales, of all time. See, with Alice, she grew up with alcoholic parents who were abusive to her. That's why she cried when she didn't know what to do in situations. She grew addicted to crack cocaine during her teenage years, and hung out with her teacher in the park. She brought her cat, Dina, with her, so that she wouldn't feel alone. Her parents wouldn't keep a cat, or any pet for that matter, because of their abusive nature. So she hides Dina from them. When she enjoyed being in the park, her father confronted her for not coming home, which resulted in him raping her and killing her by strangulation. He placed her body next to a tree and ran off. She had gone to what is presumed to be the afterlife of other people who died. And years later, the parents were sentenced to hang for murder and domestic violence. The Mad Hatter. See, he wasn't called the Mad Hatter for nothing. He had a fascination of hats and tea. But before he became the Mad Hatter, he used to be a wealthy aristocrat by the name of Charles Marmaduke Festus III. Charles was going to a fancy restaurant one night, and when he got there, he was accidentally hit on the head by a falling bucket of paint. A painter tripped on his foot and almost fell off the roof. He was lucky that he didn't fall, but he accidentally dropped his bucket on Charles's skull, causing him to behave psychotically, for the impact had scrambled his brain. He was immediately taken to an insane asylum for recovery, but it was no use. He couldn't be cured. So they had an idea. Since he was a wealthy aristocrat, why not have him behave like one? They devised an elaborate plan for a tea party for him, and he loved it. So he formed an all-year tea party with other inmates, who he had become close friends to. He was another inmate who thought that he was a rabbit. He was later nicknamed March Hare, and it didn't take long for another inmate to join the insanity. A pet rat, who would normally guard the doors of the basement cells and not let any doctors pass without his permission. Charles then named him Dormouse. The doctors were happy. Charles and the other inmates were on the road to recovery thanks to their reverse psychology. But as the days went by, an accidental fire broke out in the asylum. Everyone had to evacuate, except for Charles, March Hare, and Dormouse, who were still playing their little tea party. It didn't take long for them to accept their unfortunate fate. And years after the fire, they rebuilt the asylum. But the inmates and the doctors swore that they heard voices of Charles and the other two inmates, still playing their little tea party in Charles's old cell, which still remains a mystery. The Blue Caterpillar. The Blue Caterpillar wasn't actually a caterpillar. He was a local drug dealer who was on the run from police. He was wanted for drug trafficking, smuggling, illegal use of PCP, and attempted murder on an undercover cop. He would get so much money that it would be ridiculous. But one night, he would try a new technique with a syringe, injecting colloidal silver into his bloodstream. The next morning, his skin was blue, and he had the urge to smoke weed and LSD. He was so high that he bounced off the walls and became erratic. But as he jumped around, he accidentally went through his apartment window and collided into the concrete sidewalk below. His death has a life lesson for us. Never get high. on your own supply. The Red Queen. Mary I, born February 18th, 1516 to November 17th, 1558, was the Queen of England and Ireland from July 1553 until her death. She is best known for her aggressive and bloody attempt to reverse the English Reformation, which had begun during the reign of her father, Henry VIII. Her pursuit of the restoration of Roman Catholicism in England and Ireland led to her denunciation as Bloody Mary by her Protestant opponents. Mary was the only child of Henry VIII by his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, to survive adulthood. Her younger half-brother, Edward VI, son of Henry and Jane Seymour, succeeded their father in 1547 at the age of 9. When Edward became mortally ill in 1553, he attempted to remove Mary from the line of succession, because he opposed her Catholicism. On his death, leading politicians tried to proclaim Lady Jane Grey as queen. Mary assembled a force in East Anglia and deposed Jane, who was ultimately beheaded. Mary was, excluding the disputed reigns of Jane and the Empress of Matilda, the first queen regnant of England. In 1554, Mary married the Philip of Spain, becoming queen consort of Habsburg Spain on his accession in 1556, but she never visited Spain. And during her 5-year reign, Mary had over 280 religious dissenters burned at the stake in the Marian persecutions. After Mary's death in 1558, her re-establishment of Roman Catholicism was reversed by her younger half-sister and successor, Elizabeth I, daughter of Henry and Anne Boleyn, at the beginning of the 45-year Elizabethan era. In the ritual of today, Bloody Mary allegedly appears to individuals or groups who ritualistically invoke her name. This is done by repeatedly chanting her name in a mirror placed in a dimly lit or candlelit room. The Bloody Mary apparition allegedly appears as a corpse, a witch, or a ghost, can be friendly or evil, and is sometimes quote-unquote seen covered in blood. The lore surrounding the ritual states that participants may endure the apparition screaming at them, cursing them, strangling them, stealing their soul, drinking their blood, or scratching their eyes out. The modern legend of Hanako-san in Japan strongly parallels the Bloody Mary mythology. The Walrus and the Carpenter. The Walrus and the Carpenter are brothers in a carpeting company. The Walrus, which was originally named Duke Summers, had saved enough money to make a restaurant business, and bought a restaurant downtown. But what the Carpenter didn't know is that Duke would kidnap children, dressed up as an anthropomorphic walrus, the mascot of the restaurant that he bought, and butcher them into the food that he serves to his guests. When the Carpenter found a boy's severed finger in his burger, he grew absolutely furious, and the two fought in the kitchen. As the brothers attempt to kill each other, alleged gangster George Nelson raided the restaurant and riddled the brothers with bullets. They now roam the afterlife, trying to bury the hatchet, and was bound to make their last dish before they rest in peace, which was cabbages and canes. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Tweedledee and Tweedledum were Siamese twins that were once conjoined by their backs before they were surgically removed. They still had fun with each other, but for a short time had to confess to the accidental murder that they had caused. They had accidentally drowned a bully from their school and never told a soul. The twins then joined the circus as freaks and performed many tricks, but they were still haunted by the slaying of their childhood tormentor. So they finally broke down and confessed to the police, and they were both sentenced to hang in the gallows. They still have fun in the afterlife, though, but grieved over the loss of their innocence. Finally, the Cheshire Cat. The Cheshire Cat is not like the other ghosts in the afterlife. See, his job is to collect the souls of the deceased and use them whenever he pleases. He's actually a demon, sent from hell to drag the other spirits there so that he could torment them for all eternity. The ghosts may run and hide from him, but they're unsuccessful. This was done either by hypnosis or voice mimicry to lure the fleeing spirits to him. And on multiple occasions, the demon would shapeshift into a human being to disguise himself in the mortal world. For instance, when you die, the spirits will be in hiding spots, sometimes running to a hiding spot. A spirit would sometimes gesture you to hide and stay there till it's gone. And if you don't hide in time, the demon would corner you and attack you, dragging you to hell. The spirits say that the Cheshire Cat was created by the devil, forming the beast in his likeness. But in the game, Alice, Madness Returns, why was the character, Alice Liddell, following the cat's instructions? Kinda makes you wonder if Alice might have been a member of the occult before she was murdered. And the rest of the characters in Alice in Wonderland were either angels, demons, or other entities. Your guess is as good as mine. But London became the hotspot for many stories like Spring-Heeled Jack, Jack the Ripper, and many more. We still grow up watching Disney films and TV shows, but one day, just maybe, when you're done reading this article, you can never look at Disney the same way again.